Hi, my name is Gage Stenhouse for ASU's Computer Science 335 Principles of Mobile App Development Final. I'm going to be showing you the technical presentation from a Valley Metro Transit application. The basic overview of it is that it allows, upon opening, a view of the map annotated with markings for shuttle transit as well as light rail transit. You can also navigate through the toolbar along the bottom to stops and favorites. Stops allowing for a fully generated list of all the light rail stops, as well as a manual search functionality. If you were to click on one of the annotations or on one of these search stops within the list, it'll pop up with a little page that'll show the current ETA for the scheduled rail, as well as when it was last updated, and the ability to favorite and unfavorite it. This one's currently favorited. Yeah. Use diagram is pretty simple considering it's only a single user. It pretty much demonstrates the exact thing I said. You can view the interactable map UI. You can search for stops manually, filter by stops by type, recenters on the map. As you can see in the last photo right here, we have a recenter functionality on the map. These functions are going to be making use of static CSV files, like stops, routes, and trips that are just going to be long data batches that show route number, route name, type of route, etc. And then the Valley Metro API, which is what's used for like ETAs when static isn't necessary. So like real-time updates for ETAs. And then you can view stop details, manage favorite stops, adding and removing them. Very simple. In our model view model architecture, you can kind of see in our top layer, we're going to start with our views. Transit app view is just kind of the container that designates and separates between the different page views. It's going to open a map screen as the default. Once again, you can navigate to the others through the search bar, and then the details page or the map page can be used to view a stops details. Once something's saved, it'll be persistent. When I say saved, I mean favorite. It'll be persistent. You can view it at another time. Once again, it'll update with the view time or the ETAs as you view it at different update intervals. Currently, it's set to about 15 minutes. That was just for testing purposes and for ease of use as far as like sluggishness goes. But I'll go into that later. Below that, we have our view models. View models are going to be the primarily the map VM and then the stop list VM. Map VM just manages the current map state, so where you're at on it, annotations, ETA calculations, and then which batches load depending on like where on the map you're looking. And then stop list VM, very simply just used for updating the stop list, and then stop data, which will be used in other parts of the functionality. Your data store is just going to be handling CRUD operations, so like create, read, update, delete. So retrieving current data, adding it to models as it's created, updating it if you need to modify it, and then deleting it if need be. Transit API, exactly as it sounds, just houses all the API keys and then handles JSON file parsing, and then GTFS parsing or general transportation feed specification is just like an open format or a common source of .txt formatting or CSV formatting. Yeah, and you can kind of see in our models and everything's connected through data storage. It's mostly used for like your persistent data types, and then your GTFS is going to be like your static TXTs and so on. And then route mapper is used and associated with something like map view model because it's going to be associated with like ETA calculations. So this is kind of like the shtick of it. So I'm kind of proud of a couple of things. The batch size was a lot larger than I thought. I didn't realize there were so many shuttle stops and light rail stops. So managing so many stops, having it all categorized properly, managing all my database, I was pretty happy with that. I was happy with the real-time update process. So being able to pull from delayed update alerts from Valley Metro, as well as just basic ETA calculation, and then the current status. So if like a stop is no longer active, like a bus stop is no longer active, it'll show as a deactivated. And then lazy batch loading. This was mostly just to counteract the issue I had with such a large data set. And this will actually kind of go into the issues I encountered. So sluggish performance, as you can kind of see in my screenshot, I showed in the console update for debugging some hanging issues. It was mostly when you first went over to the search because of how large the database was for it. It kind of slowed things down. The map UI was a little cluttered, especially when handling like just map annotations in general. I wish I could have handled that a little better. The GUI or like the UI is just a little simplistic. I wish I could have added a little more personal touch to it. I had a lot of issues with dynamic location. I mostly wish I had started on this aspect of it earlier. I was using dummy data or just like hard coded data for a lot of it, and I wish I had focused on this more. And then duplicate stops, just having a better way of filtering between east and west facing stops, because every stop's going to have two technically on the annotation map, because one is heading east, one is heading west. So that kind of clutters things up a bit. I kind of learned a lot of these might seem self-apparent, but these were very apparent to me as I went on. Real world data is messy, so it was formatted relatively nicely, but it's very layered as far as like how everything is embedded, like internal scopes, and just how large the files were. I was a little unprepared for that. Scope creep is real. I kind of state that in big bold letters because, like I said, with like using dummy data or hard coded stuff, I kind of got lost in the weeds and lost track of what I needed to do, and it kind of made things a little harder as I went on. Once again, repeated there. Commenting, obviously, everyone knows commenting is necessary, but I really wish, and I really saw as I went on, commenting, especially in the more complex stuff, was very, 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 very necessary. Because if I wasn't in the same headspace the following day, it would have been very, very hard. And then just finding ways to make performance a little bit more efficient as time went on. I wish I had paid a little more attention to that as time goes on. It's functional. It's just I wish I had handled some of that a little earlier. And then I guess basic improvements. These aren't necessarily like, these are just things that I came up with, and they kind of both play into each other. So I personally like a bit of a guided experience. Obviously, it's a little counterintuitive. We want to have more open minds, but a bigger repo or like some more example projects might be helpful in the future. Just because I kind of got in my own head and maybe I bit off a little more than I could chew, or maybe I went in the wrong direction with it. I understand, given we're using very specific functions, so like needing a map, needing persistent data, using either Firebase or Swift data. But I really wish maybe there's a little more guidance, just for people like me. I need a little guidance. And that kind of plays into, even if you give a batch of ideas, all of them will have the same basic functionalities, but maybe one's a little bit harder because the data set's a little bit larger for it. Or maybe the location management needs to be a little more in depth, or maybe the UI needs to be more hands-on, or maybe so ways like that to make it more difficult or specialized depending on the project. And then I kind of like this idea, much like the capstone meetings, having either peer-reviewed sprints or having like a student and a TA meet once or twice throughout the project, just to kind of make sure everything's on track. And it kind of helps with things like, as I was mentioning, like scope creep, or commentation, or just keeping track of your project. Things like that can really, really help. Obviously, I understand you guys have a lot of workload, so I'm not super angry at things like this not happening, but yeah, that'd be just my two basic recommended improvements. And yeah, that's it for me. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.